3 weeks ago on my Instagram, someone from the channel asked me this. At IMFires, could you one day explain on your YouTube channel why Marvel gets a pass for not explaining, showing how Holland got his power in the death of Uncle Ben? Big fan, thanks. And I thought to myself, but haven't they already? And then days later, Marvel officially announced a freshman year animated series for Disney+, one that's said to do just that. Show us how Tom Holland's Peter Parker got his powers and became Spider-Man in the MCU. But still I thought to myself, haven't Marvel Studios already done that? But even what I thought was just a little insight when I started the research for this video couldn't have prepared me for what I found. That's right, an undeniable piece of evidence that proves not only Tony Stark's behind the creation of Spider-Man, but I'm gonna tell you the exact time and place he got bit. And to be perfectly clear, I don't need some crazy off-screen glue, a couple of if-thens to go down to make this all happen. This is presented in evidence, hard Easter eggs spread across the Infinity Saga. I'm gonna link them all together with you guys again to prove that Tony Stark is behind the spider and we know exactly when and where Spider-Man was bit. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. This is Everything Always. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you're into daily Marvel content, that's all we do. Everything from original theories like this to Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, recaps, watch parties, and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, leaving a comment down below. If you do, that'll automatically enter you to win all of the giveaways here at the channel. If you want, stick around at the end of the video, we'll get into the giveaway stuff again there. So to be perfectly clear, and as I just mentioned in the prologue, I've seen and heard a ton of theories recently that take one or two details from the films and then build this crazy what if concocted story on the back end. That is not what we are doing today. I think a good film theory is rooted in the facts and the canon. Those are the frames, the dialogue, the characters in the scenes a writer or director, or say in this case Marvel Studios, have chosen for us to see. Again, good film theories are rooted in canon, and so that's what I'm going to do today. Now, as I attempted to unravel this, I thought it was pretty clear from the start, because like any good investigation, you need three pieces: a suspect, a motive, and an opportunity. And the suspect sort of presented himself. It's well known at this point that our introduction to Spider-Man comes via Tony Stark. Like guilty suspects sometimes do, inserting themselves into investigations, Tony wants to insert himself into Peter Parker's situation, and very early on in Peter's existence, as Peter tells Tony in that first meeting in the apartment that he's only had his power for 6 months. I would argue Tony Stark already knew that. Some have pointed to that YouTube video that he presented in the bedroom, or even a comment on that YouTube video, as how Tony found Peter. But I would argue that that YouTube video is not how he found him, but why he did. A problem for Tony when people start investigating Spider-Man, knowing it would lead back to him, with the working theory being he introduced us to Spider-Man because he had something to do with the creation of Spider-Man. Now that he's starting to pop up on YouTube, that's a problem for Tony. Why he wants to get involved and immediately become a mentor and or work with this kid is to try and control the situation so that there's no situation at all. And actually fits the narrative going into Spider-Man Homecoming perfectly, as he wants Spider-Man to basically do nothing, because if he does anything, that creates a problem and a headache for Tony Stark. Now, the first time I wrote this essay, I literally spent almost 8 or 10 minutes outlining the relationship between Tony and Peter. It's a beautiful narrative arc that affects them both and could be the subject of a very, very long YouTube in and of itself. But that is not the point of today's argument, as you guys have watched all the same film I have. And even though he may have involved himself because he felt guilty at the beginning, by the end of the Infinity Saga, he thinks of Peter as a son. That was presented in the Avengers Endgame scene when his daughter is the reason he can't invent time travel, and Peter Parker's picture is the reason that he chooses to. They juxtapose his daughter to Peter Parker to make sure that however we understood this relationship at the beginning, it's come to be that he treats Peter Parker as a son. He holds him in the same regard and weight as he holds his own daughter, Morgan Stark. This clearly illustrates a familial bond between Peter and Tony that has evolved over time, but most likely started in the first place because of the feeling of creation, the feeling of responsibility, the feeling of Tony on his behalf, not necessarily guilt, but feeling like he needed to be involved. Remember, guilt, the main motivator behind a lot of his actions in Civil War. This would be yet another thing on his list, so to speak, that he needed to tend to, another mess he needed to clean up. Now, I told you guys I was going to stick directly to the facts, and that's what I plan on doing, but we're still in the theory part of this investigation. We have a suspect and motive, everything we've talked about in the last couple of minutes of this video, but we also need an opportunity. One that had me always guessing to begin with, why Marvel would bother retconning a moment in Iron Man 2, and if you weren't aware, Tom Holland revealed some years ago and confirmed by Kevin Feige that this moment in Iron Man 2 where Tony flies down and kills the hammer drone for that kid, that's Tom Holland's Peter Parker, establishing a meeting between the two of them in real time and the idolization of Tony Stark to Peter Parker early in the MCU, but it does more than that. It establishes an opportunity for Peter Parker to be bit. It would follow as he grows up and maintains being a man of science, he would go to all of these expos every year. We know from Iron Man 2 that the Stark Expo takes place at some point around when he races in Monaco. The races in Monaco are a real thing. They take place every year, sometime in April or May, around then, depending on the year, but basically the middle or late spring. We know from Civil War when Tony Stark awards the September grant. By the way, that doesn't have to do with the month, sort of misleading. September is actually a lyric from the song his mom would sing at the piano that's shown during the BARF technology, but we know it's sometime during the school year, and we can assume, since everyone in Civil War is wearing coats, it might be in the fall, establishing the time of year of the Stark Expo lined up with the Monaco race from Iron Man 2 as being in the spring, Civil War perhaps in the fall, and so when Peter Parker says, I got my powers 6 months before, it would place the Tony Stark Expo, this apparent perfect opportunity, in the right time of year, assuming, of course, that after Tony Stark resurrects the Stark Expo in 2010, he continues to run it annually as it did before and keeps it around the same time of year. Now that we have this suspect motive and seeming opportunity, the Tony Stark Expo, in the right time of year from when Peter Parker himself said he got his powers, the only thing left to prove is that Peter Parker was actually there the year that he got bit, and the answer to this is actually found in what I think is the biggest piece of evidence, the biggest Easter egg this is connected, Marvel Studios gave to us all, and I think a lot of us just missed. Peter Parker tells Tony Stark, point blank, he cannot travel because he's in the middle of the school year to go help him in Germany. However, if I'm right about when the Tony Stark Expo is, it's taking place during the spring, during the school year, which means if he goes to the Stark Expo, it has to be in his hometown. Oh yeah, that's right. The Stark Expo takes place in Flushing, New York. And if you're not familiar with the boroughs and geography in New York City, let me enlighten you. Flushing is in Queens, the hometown of Peter Parker, and where we're first introduced, importantly enough, introduced via a title card to let us know exactly where we are. And now here, as a hardline Easter egg spread across the entirety of the Infinity Saga, we see that the Stark Expo, not only the right time of year and likely location given Tony Stark's interjection into this whole situation, but also the right locale, the opportunity perfect as it takes place in his hometown. And remember, Peter Parker has always been a science nerd, that's par for his character, so this is of course a place he would go every year, including the year that he presumably got bit and he meets with Tony Stark 6 months later, trying to explain what happened, but Tony Stark already knows. And you can literally see the scene play out as Tony realizes one of his radioactive spiders is dead, and he goes to watch the playback tape and sees Peter Parker getting bit and decides that he could do something about it, but would just rather not because, as he said during Ultron, he's a mad scientist. Now guys, the best part of this theory is that we're going to find out in the upcoming animated series, but one thing I want to mention is that nailing down a timeline in the MCU is super difficult, especially with some gaffes along the way, and as they pertain to Spider-Man, it's really hard to nail down an exact year, and very, very hard to nail down an exact month. Only times of year, and that's just going on the weather. So of course we know the only thing is for certain that Peter Parker has had the powers for about 6 months when he meets with Tony Stark, but honestly Stark could move the date around of his expo to any time of year. There's no way of telling, and so like I said, while eventually we're going to find out whether this theory is really wrong or really right, some of these details have to be sort of forged, maybe in that upcoming animated series. I know I said I would stick strictly to the canon, I did the best I can, but in the meantime, you guys take to the comments, fill me in on any details, Easter eggs, arguments you see for or against. I'm sure you're going to let me know your opinion either way, and quickly let's jump into what's going on here at the channel, what's going on with me, the giveaway stuff, etc. Alright, we're still giving away PlayStation 5s en masse, all the way up to 1 million subscribers. Every 20,000 the easiest and best way to be entered into the giveaways. It's super simple. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment on this video. More videos you comment on, better chance you have of winning. Make sure to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on to better keep up with the content. Of course, if you liked today's video, if you feel like I earned it, hit the sub and hit the like button. I would sincerely appreciate you hitting the like button. I put a lot of work into this one. This theory's been years in the making. My name's Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places. Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. Come follow me there. It's a glimpse into my life. I also post a lot of Marvel memes. I'm also a musician. I go by the name Allfires. I'm on every platform: YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple. Again, that's Allfires. With the songs you heard in the background of this video and some others, I'm actually releasing a brand new song that's coming out. When you see this video, it might be out on Tuesday. Either way, there's some links down in the description. I know music is super subjective. It's not for everybody. But, you know, maybe you like it. Maybe you're just curious, and you clicking on it helps the algorithm give it to people who want to hear it. So you're supporting me, and I would sincerely appreciate it. Either way, I'll see you on my socials. I'll see you back here at the channel. Guys, be very careful as we wade into the coming days with spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. Tomorrow is the official premiere and first screening. There will be NDAs, but we all saw what happened with Eternals. And then after that, it goes live worldwide on Wednesday. I will actually see the film on Wednesday. It comes out in the US on Thursday. Just be very wary, and maybe it's a good time to unplug from Instagram and social media, because it only takes one person. Like the day I woke up to see Avengers Endgame, and someone had already made concept art of Captain America versus Captain America in my Instagram feed, and it only went downhill from there. So just a friendly reminder, I love you guys. Peace, love, Spider-Man.